Please now listen to the following teaching with the motivation of bodhicitta, the mindful awakening that is determined to establish all mother sentient beings infinite in number as the limits of space at the level of perfect and complete unsurpassable enlightenment. Thinking that in order to do that, I will now listen to this profound teaching and put it into practice.
딱 대파시다 미드베 시디 가나선 직딩기 쳐야 돼. 이런 나랑 속에 직딩지기 쳐야 돼. 다 직딩 쳐지기 나와. 톱다 얘다 민다. 직접 따라가 가게 나랑 속. 딱 남식 중이기 되고 또서 봐줘. 근데 저기 직딩 쳐지기 아니 친미게 타바신도 욕심이 민라 도망치기 말이. 야한테 톱라야 도망치기 말이. 근데 귤라야 도망치기 말이. 미게 빠빠라야 가그 말이. 다 당선 패서 두루루 보지나지. 문제게 필링제가 오마다. 저기 약물을 남난다 두자를 남나 콩나 폰규지되게 매되게. 저거들 라마 오네 근데 공부 통했어. 어다 진짜기 공부하게 되라. 직진 추기다 자와서다. 돈이 또 비실레데 알아서 전주나라 돈이 또 비실레데 랑규도 랑전도 추게 보아. 신전도 인지 귤라자로 와서.现在人家别没给我看，东尼国没给的，中国全部给我，人家让先学给过来吧，出口给那些，明白给那些吧了。呀，这个吧，randan的学习不，现在的人家准备对接了，现在呢人家学什么给的，他人家都别没给的呢，怎么讲呢？叫randan的学习没有，今天学习给他，趁第一个名堂，他当年在我说过了，真正给呢干的，真正的呢过考呢。当时lama inare, pombo inare, chupu inare, so inaya. Nya pada dewa chapa do kepala gangu yore. Di dubi tondo, yu sama ga do, tra kunju chena gawi do, kantre samdan. Nadan jigden di kunzo taba so dubi sama dane, mi tagin bokor berwa. Ota tin ta nilu gedun di toba ina so. Nyumon nam to ringi chaba tang, nyumon to shashi tang tang mungu do. 최근 데라 심바 지중도 세디 민당 톱당년데 연안디도 맨안디도 어야 대대위 난저 봤던 직든 체디 돌아가 준잡이라서 참바집이라서 봤다 대대위기 밀란 고고르당 빌라서 봤다 미용래 아 다딜라마 똑같은 부리라 밀란 고고르기도 밀란 미실라미 준지기도 진짜 시비잖아요 저거 난저 인사 본죠 오늘 최근 데라 심바 제송송 누구도 ringi 제스를 때 라마라야 상징고 통게 해봐 제체돌라야 되네 그런 당만 되네 상징이 때문에 실내이나야 되네 90 되네 용어리 딱 알아서 딱 줄루고 나와 텐텐게 안닝마 거기로 사이에 거기로 생대마 대디네 진지게 지금 이게 라초레 셴초레 쓰니게 촌팀 이것들에 대한 뭐 용어를 그 가르스는 주다 내부도 되는데 마음으로 되나 그래 지금 이게 남마다 저절라 대바다나 연구 말 최라양 소리 차도 같은 그런 먹는기데 저는 내려고 되는데 마도 그왕게 인터넷 차례를 무기 담아 ringi 제시를 펼세다 내려고 돼야 뭐또 남마라 상징이 대박이 최초로 같은 담한테 디야 되네 그런 이말 레이네 되네 담한다 대바다 어야 되네 제시를 펼려서 다 고민하고 이제 다 되기 मिलम से वसल छरवा सो मिलम से मिलम मोसे दी मिलम रेदो संते मिलम मोसे मिलम के ताक तिरा वा तंगोसु के ताक जितेन छु के मेदा था इंजे छरो जोवा तो न्यों बो chung तो जोवा छि मिलम के ताक तिरे से मिलम सिंबा से मिलम मोसे का 나도 मिलम मोमे मिलम पे दुबो तो तिदि याम 홍도 तिदि ड्राई तो देओ माते ने खिगे सो जाओ वाला सब ना 추나는 홍도게 되고다 진짜게 넘분난 홍도라서 미 대용게 되고 들미기도 대인들가 땅원이게 내려게 되도 오 밀람브레 밀람도 모시네 되네 밀람 모시네 파르둘 모시네 그래서 이제 밀람 신스 밀람 wasal chara waso waste te milam nala wasal chana rikpa ngotne wasal chana rikpa milam nala rikpa rangotre wasal sinda tira ngure sa arang so rikpa ngotre kitla ta wasal sinsa rikpa ngotre masere milam nala milam ngoshi gi de kham de yamure gom yabuji mana milam ngosin gi mane milam ngosin bale ha gi rikpa ngotre kunje longse ramjam gi ta da khang song do sana milam la ngosin ka ta lema sum rikpa ngotre ba ina तेने पार्दोने मिट्रोल थापचा नि मेसो मिलम नाले मसुम व रिपंग ओछे ते काम मजे तेने याबो यसो ओ त तीन दि था ताता गरे निंगर गोम याबो जब छला या मिलम के ने कसरी बम ओसन करे बेना जिटा दा उंगा दा ओछोना दा ते माई न या जी बिदाने को खांदे या रिपंग ओसे बा रागे तेने का योंग योंगरे नो ते ते दि था गोम याबो जेबी को मिलम ने संबा ता तेने वसल छरवा सो दाजे सो होना milam nala de milam simba ta message milam gurwa ta tulwa tile ya ngos milam nala de milam nala ra pruwa ta oh yeah, the need for Junju Tempata. Chigi to Japa Ponta Mango for Tuluata, Mango to Chigo to do to the Milam Lasavata. The Milam Nalatan around in the Chudru done the temple to the Tijagi. Nuba Yunga, Titi and Milam put Rogan with the Ungu Angala, and Nampur, the David, to the same. Milam na Kandis is Milam na Rangi for it. Milam round of the window. Milam na Tulua Ket. Milam na the around China, Dio thing. So what to do to her? Tindigi, Milam Gitane, etc. Today, Ade. Milam Singing or Selchara sauce. Didn't Lamkin do Yangtang in the Dunda do the Lanta Yanta what the consonant, Yomong Chundu Chundu, check it made to meet Inji Cheru. Oh, yeah, the theatre with Chuna, Lamki Tayanta, what I do Yantang to be dancing in the air.
So, to continue with the text, the text from among the virtuous beginning, middle and end, we've covered the excellent virtue of the beginning, and from among the view, meditation, conduct, discussion of view, meditation, conduct and results that make up the virtue of the main part, or the middle, we've discussed view, meditation and action. We now arrive at the discussion of the result. So, it's explained that when training in the main part, first one ascertains the natural state through the view. One trains in maintaining that recognition through meditation and applying that in full through conduct. So, and by training in this way, by training in the path in this way, then one develops the 5 experiences one after the other, as was explained by Vimalamitra, as we discussed last session. And then finally, as the culmination of this path, then we attain the ultimate result of the path being complete enlightenment, awakening. So enlightenment is the result of this path that we're training on. But what are the qualities of enlightenment? What are its excellent qualities? This is then kind of the perspective from which these next few lines about the results are talking. They're talking about the qualities of the results that's attained through this path. So, in essence, the result is the state of awakening. The state of awakening comprised of the 3 kayas: the empty essence Dhammakaya, the luminous nature Sambhogakaya, and the manifold capacity Namanakaya. This is the real result. If we're going to talk about the result itself, in essence. But this result of awakening, the enlightened state of the 3 kayas, it has its own natural qualities of awakened body, awakened speech, awakened mind, awakened qualities and awakened activity. 5 of each of these are enumerated in the scriptures, so 5 qualities of awakened body, 5 of speech, 5 of mind, 5 of qualities and 5 of activities, making a total of 25, what we call the 25 excellent qualities of the fruition. If you want to read a detailed explanation of these 25 fruitional qualities, you can look in the Treasury of Precious Qualities by Jigme Lingpa. They're explained there in detail. So when discussing the qualities of enlightenment, the result, we can discuss these qualities in terms of things that have been abandoned and things that have been realized. So things that have been discarded and things that have been realized. So regarding this, the text reads, "The fruition of such practice is that destructive emotions and thoughts will weaken, attachment to the 8 worldly concerns will diminish, devotion and pure perception will steadily increase, you'll recognize dreams, clear light will arise, and so on. These are the authentic fruits of the path." So the result is being described in this text with these 6 lines. So what is one quality, excellent quality then, of the result, enlightenment, that is reached through this practice? Well, one such quality is that destructive emotions and thoughts will weaken. So when one realizes intrinsic awareness, the result is such that to the extent that one has gained, the deeper one's realization, the less, and the weaker the destructive emotions and thoughts become. So as when one gains recognition and then continues to deepen one's realization, the disturbing emotions and thoughts weaken and lessen bit by bit. Attachment to the 8 worldly concerns will diminish. So also as a sign, when one has recognized intrinsic awareness, as a result one becomes less and less attached to the 8 worldly concerns, and ultimately not attached at all. So these 8 worldly concerns are the basic kind of pursuits and the basic attachments that all of us worldly people pursue, namely gain, happiness, reputation and praise. So gain, the wish to gain, whether it be material gain or status or what have you, just the wish to gain what you regard as favorable, so more money, wealth, status and the like. Happiness, so experiences of pleasure, any pleasurable, blissful experiences. And reputation, so being famous, having a good reputation, being respected. And then praise, people speaking to us in a favorable way, telling us we're good, praising our qualities. These are the things that worldly people desire and pursue. And what they do not desire and what they try to avoid are the opposite. So loss, unhappiness, bad reputation and criticism. So the text here is saying that when you have realized Rigpa, realized intrinsic awareness, as a result you will no longer pursue these 8 worldly concerns. Worldly people are consumed with the pursuit of these 8 worldly concerns. With these 8 worldly concerns are like the goal they have in mind, and then with that goal in mind, then they undertake all sorts of pursuits to accomplish this goal. And that often involves lying, cheating, deceiving people, hurting people, whatever it takes, to accomplish these worldly concerns. But a realized practitioner has no interest in these worldly concerns, no more interest than they would in a pile of dust. And one example of this is the master Dorupten Rinpoche. He is completely and utterly free of the 8 worldly concerns, completely unmoved by them. You can shower him with praise or with criticism, and he honestly, it's of no difference to him whatsoever. He's just totally unmoved. So he was really an example, like the foremost example of someone who is utterly free, completely free of the 8 worldly concerns. In the way of Bodhisattva, it says, what is the function of realizing emptiness? Like, what function does realizing emptiness have? What are the signs of that? It says, well, for regarding oneself, from the perspective for oneself, one no longer pursues the 8 worldly concerns, and towards others, one has natural and very strong compassion. So these are also signs of realizing emptiness, or namely realizing intrinsic awareness. One no longer is interested in pursuing the 8 worldly concerns for oneself, and naturally has this intense compassion for others. So if one realizes the natural state, though, these concerns are just not present. They're just not there anymore. Devotion and pure perception will steadily increase. So when you realize the natural state, intrinsic awareness, then naturally you have pure devotion, impartial devotion and faith, and pure perception develop. So, and as your realization deepens, these qualities strengthen and expand. So at present, most of us have a quite partial and biased faith and pure perception, right? We all regard ourselves as belonging to one school, like Nyingma or Kagyu or Sakya or what have you. And our pure we don't have equal appreciation and equal pure perception for all the schools, for all the traditions. And of course that's the same goes with our perception for the teachers. So when you realize intrinsic awareness though, this kind of biased attitude disappears, and instead one's devotion, faith and pure perception become more and more impartial, more and more greater and more and more impartial. A realized great perfection practitioner will perceive the gurus as Buddha in person. They will have that direct perception of the gurus as Buddhas in person, and their pure perception and faith will be impartial, unbiased, and will just strengthen and grow all the time. They won't have the jealousy and rivalry that so many of us have. That they're completely free from those kinds of biased attitudes. Of course, their compassion also, they have a very strong natural compassion that increases and intensifies as the realization increases. You'll recognize dreams and clear light will arise. So through the strength of recognition and realization of intrinsic awareness, then you'll come to recognize dreams. This means that when you're dreaming, you'll be aware that you are dreaming. At the moment, we're not aware, when we dream, we're not aware that what we're perceiving is a dream, right? And as a result, often we have very unpleasant experiences. We might have nightmares where, I don't know, we're being chased or pursued, or in very dangerous circumstance, falling off a cliff or something. And because we perceive all of it as real, then we really experience terror and anxiety, right, in our dreams. But through the strength of recognition of Rigpa, then you will be able to recognize your dreams as dreams, and you won't perceive them as real in that way. Even more than just recognizing dreams as dreams, you will also be able to recognize, as a next step, you will be able to recognize intrinsic awareness within the dream. So not just be aware that, oh, I'm now dreaming, this isn't real, but within that dream actually recognize intrinsic awareness. So that's really the best thing that can happen in dreams, recognizing and also realizing Rigpa. And when you train in this way in dreams, then you can develop the ability to gain complete control over dreams, so that you can transform your dreams and do all manner of things in your dreams, like perform amazing miracles, and multiply the dreams, contract the dreams, and display all sorts of miraculous feats. That's a result of training, of having recognized dreams and then training in this way. So when it says here, you'll recognize dreams and clear light will arise. So you'll first of all, through the strength of your recognition of Rigpa and training, you'll be able to recognize dreams as dreams, and then be able to recognize luminosity within dreams and within sleep. And Longchenpa explained that if you can recognize Rigpa within dreams 3 times, if that happens 3 times, then that's like confirmation that you will be able to recognize the bardo, recognize luminosity in the bardo, in the intermediate state after death. So these are all signs of the qualities that develop or that arise when, as a result of recognition of Rigpa. So these are the qualities of the, as it says, these are the authentic fruits of the path, the authentic signs of attaining of the results of practice on the path. Yes.
Sangen Michel Dugilu, Tati Only Japan Yabu the Kandasana, Chigit Lepata, Moya, Chaso Yomobatanje, the Toldo, teacher that young, but the Tire Matoge, came my big high, the Shalja, Sunto, Alasomata, Moshi Parapurishi, Lasomata, to talk Sagato Shaki, to do something young Tabata, my young Taba, my Nurki, Lachibu. Pai shal jal se dekh la che uni ke semran jibba ki tende ke lo yogi ke ha jal Allah se namaz na che ke ha de yang ta ma che du me singi chang bi shegis 엄마 민준 남기 돌제 내 공부 통보 민준 남기 돌제서 선지 셰베 공부 통보 제 젤리 고추선 나랑 드레 슈르데 가 미잡 게 잡나 조세 이젠으로 스케 잡나 뒤뒤르다 갑다 아 서도 꿀리디니 거군 이거 장는 말 되게 싫어 아 싫어 진짜 그 자스 시간서 젤리 좀 되네 근데 딱 민준 남기 돌제 남들 시에 셰제 배 미기 먹고 싶어요 근데 니마지 민준 남기 돌제 라도 하샬 잘네 이들 나라서에는 얘들은 맨날 하샬 잘다 문전 톱스긴데 양도 한번 말했어야 되잖아 뒤에 때는 민준 남기 돌제데 근데 니마지 나와 나 토갈 쓰기 됐어 토갈 나 토갈게 틀리 먹고 싶어 틀리 먹겠다 딱 많이 남기네 지금네 제 토갈 남게 넣은 거서라 봐 내가 아직도 근데 들기 고정서 딱 들기를 제대로 쉬어졌어. 이 들기 고정서 이게 내가 까톡게 당하라서 까다만 빠밤게 꼬르다서 당하라 빠밤 수디를 무셔 봐. 오 되게 꼬르다서 이제 줬어. 들기 고정서 그 민거더라. 배 두자 라마 망고지라 너처 망고 체레서 야 그러면서 들기게 다야 단다 빠밤 소리 하나 틀려 먹고 좀 그랬어. 그래서 같이 마신 제대로 라마 망고지를 발제 망고지 다 당사 슈겐세게 지거래. 그것만 해로 슈겐. 다 저절로 제지. 다 있는 제지 라마 강 자치제 내가 주박 강 그 발제 망고지로 봐. 이 최주변을 발제 그 발제 지고 산. 그때 민준 남기다 홍어랬어. 근데 공출 주고 삼다 공개지 출주고 라마데 빼 출주고 탑지 먹고 짠 불금있어. 라마를 벌어. 아쉬운데. 그 간대지니까 탁기 지금 코나 지금 루고도서 잘로당 마셔. 이내 코 개와르도 들기 고용선 영화 라마지도 라만데 랑조도 아쉬운데도. 때는 코 람상 두고지 때도 그 미긴 남고도 지나 아쉬운데. 코티나 이기 dum제. 제다데 뜨고 하고 왔어. 다 미긴 남기도지. 토갈기 틀레스기도 그 하고. 다 하고 살아 그 람상 코랑 판도서 그 틀리나 야좀 그런 거지 꾸지 않아. 네네네. 다 만들다 나봐. 다 그런 거지 야서 갔다 제 거를 여서 여러 가지 기라. 민준 남기도 살라마 또 고마워. 그런 거지 차살. 막 다 틀려 시행소나 대고 민준 남기도 다 파르지도 비샤지도. 차살 통 민준 남기도 이 셴바자에서 맞다. 뭐 공부고. 남기는 게 때문에 그런 것이 때문에 가tam주. 때문에 가tam도 그거도. 그건 이제 제 가서 뭐 가서 겁나 그런 것이 나니 뭔가 말아. 가tam 고지고 제도. 네 민준 남기도. 패터 사우지 잡혔어. 집 육샤도 타이 잡도 바꿔주셨어. 어디 들게 고죠. 로스미시 지금 콜라슈기메 샷었어. 자들은 대슈기메. 로스미시 지는데 니마지 미지 대슈기스. 대카 로티가 슈기메 그 가셔서. 나한테 그 로기시는 거라서 미긴 남기도 송도. 나 미기들이 남기들이 발제지가 송인데. 발제지서 짜임도 인진 코리코로 범거로 봐가서 발제지서라. 발제세긴데 레도. 지긴 저기 걸 줄고 줄사보다 거야 엔트리 쳐서 되지고. 때 지사자면 때코 공공 된다 틀리지를 되네 빼 나라서 태가 토갈 검수도 내가 티 토갈도 검수 구를 버지게 이제 찌 패터지 잡혀도 그러나 타이 겸도 사람하고 나 대처 레비를 로스는 거서 때 되죠 띠인도 그러나 네가 파이 샬식도 없으면 하리기 쉬워 말이야 하스긴데 젤즈니 라요 말이야 젤즈니 룬덴시게 용거래 팀마세지게 샵제당 되는 거 차지 소샤겐서 돌 샤게서 하리기 티안 로기 먹다 되는 사람 말이야 근데 돌 샵제 샤게 제고니 샵제 샤게도 다 힘다 되는 제소선 돌 샵제 샤게도 다 트레타미를 먹고 요래서 그래서 약보다 두자 니 하고 말이야고 나랑 저기 예와지 체육관리 가고 요래서 다 약쇼데 강아래서 கொஞ்சம் 라라 뇽바 충도 송 네 거를 바라서 대바다 방망도 네 균제 이시도 대바다 방망 체를 송 디나지 인제 체를 송 직된 초기라더니 셴바도 충도 중서 때 곰양 다버르게 난다래서 단다데 송 대면 하절 잘다 농된 폭 하절 잘다 농된 폭 then to Ushi Chaso Jew in a mint. Ushi at the dig in the Balatan, Ushi to the Dabba Shake to the younger, Yamamushi Shiki. Shintaka Jesus on the Tengushi Shintaka Jesus on the Shabjisha to look at the shaker. The Tamjay and the Lurginian shaker, I will not be sent to the Mong Sansa. Joey also sang in Michi Dukilua, almost a deep Dukilu to the Lure, and Jutin Nalian, so dear brothers, the Lumian Bishop.
Domini Shushana.
Ah,
Domini Shushana.
ah,
Domini Shushana.
oh, yeah.
So, okay, then the text continues. So these are the authentic fruits of the path. Otherwise, though, to have visions of deities, receive prophecies, gain clairvoyance and the like, may or may not be the fruit of the path. Whether good or bad, we cannot say, for it could all be the deception of Mara. So, these signs that were mentioned above, emotions and thoughts weakening, the 8 worldly concerns diminishing and so on, these are the authentic signs of the path, authentic and clear signs. On the other hand, other potential signs like having a vision of the deity, receiving prophecies, even gaining clairvoyance and other magical powers and the like, it's not certain actually, those kinds of things can happen, but it's not certain actually if those are genuine signs of the fruit on the path or not. As it says, they could all be the deception of Mara. So it is possible actually, these kinds of experiences, having visions and receiving prophecies and experiencing having clairvoyance and other sorts of powers, it's really difficult to say actually whether those are genuine signs or whether actually they're just the interference of Maras. There's one story, if these kinds of things happen to us, these kinds of things occur and they're actually not genuine signs but interference of Maras, but we don't recognize that and we become very attached to these signs because of thinking that, oh, this is a sign of having made great progress in my practice, then actually we can be led severely astray, and these can become big sidetracks. So there's a story I want to tell in this regard. In the past there was a master called Mingyur Namkhe Dorje. He was a Dzogchen Mingyur Namkhe Dorje. He was a great Dzogchen master and he'd attained the rainbow body. He was extremely accomplished, like extraordinarily accomplished. He, because he'd attained the rainbow body, then say he was sitting here where Rinpoche is sitting and you were in the other room and you called him from the other room. He said, "Hey, Mingyur Namkhe Dorje." Then like his body would just appear on the other side. He would lean back and his body would just appear the other side of the wall. So he was unimpeded by solid matter. He'd attained the rainbow body. So things like that happened with him all the time. Anyway, so he would, if you called him, "Hey, Dzogchen Rinpoche," then he would reply, "Ah," and his like face would just appear the other side of the wall. So one day this master was practicing Turgal, this direct crossing, great perfection practice, while sitting outside in the sun, looking at the sun, and it seemed he practiced this a lot. So he was staring into the sun and looking at all the tigle, the bindus. This is a part of the Turgal practice. And there was a ghost. There was a ghost called the Derge Korkyong, a ghost in that part of Tibet at the time, who was very powerful and really a terrible troublemaker. He actually previously this ghost had been a practitioner, quite an accomplished practitioner. Then it had been reborn as this kind of spirit, and he caused a lot of harm and obstacles for many gurus. He would help and aid actually the group of practitioners he was connected to, who were called Pabam, but he made problems for everyone else. So it's a place in Derge in East Tibet, kind of like Shugden, this spirit Shugden, who was also previously practitioner, so like that. And he would especially try to make obstacles for good practitioners. So like it said, the deeper your practice goes, then the more intense the obstacles become. So in the same way, he would focus on making obstacles for like really accomplished practitioners. So he targeted this master one day, Mingyur Nangke Dorje, and he wanted to make obstacles for him. He saw him sitting in the sun like this practicing Turgal, and he tried every trick he could think of to make obstacles for this master, but nothing, he wasn't able to affect him at all. But then he kind of just then paid attention to the way he was sitting, the way Mingyur Nangke Dorje was sitting and staring. And because he himself in a past life had been a practitioner, he knew from the way he was sitting and the like that this guy is practicing Turgal, and this involves looking at the bindus. Okay, so he went and sat down next to Mingyur Nangke Dorje and sat just like him, like mimicking his posture and stare. And then he realized, he's practicing Turgal, looking at the bindus in the sky. And so he thought, now I know how I can trick this guy. And so he turned himself into the image of Guru Rinpoche in the middle of a bindu, and kind of manifested himself magically to Mingyur Nangke Dorje as Guru Rinpoche staring down at him in a bindu. And thinking that when Mingyur Nangke Dorje saw that, he would be like so overjoyed, thinking, wow, he's come to face with Guru Rinpoche. Like if we had that kind of experience, we would think that, right? Like just be so overjoyed. And then the spirit's plan was that, when he sees this image, when he sees Guru Rinpoche, then he will become attached, to that experience, and then I'll have the chance. Then it'll be like the door, and I'll have the chance to make problems with him, make problems for him. But actually, Mingyur Nangke Dorje didn't really react at all. He saw, he saw Guru Rinpoche in the sphere there. This was the ghost, appearing in that way. But instead of like reacting with joy or what have you, he just stared, very kind of nonchalantly, and observed. And then he noticed that, this Guru Rinpoche has no katvanga. Is not holding a katvanga, and because of course this spirit, he's just a spirit, so he'd forgotten to also display the katvanga, right? So the master Mingyur Nangke Dorje had found him out and realized that this was just a spirit playing games. So he shouted "Pe" really loudly and violently, and the spirit was blown away so far that he actually landed, he found himself at the other side of the ocean, like in a different continent. The master's pay blew him that far away. And actually after this incident, this spirit just disappeared from the area for 3 or 4 years. There were no more instances of him making problems or what have you for like 3 or 4 years. But then 3 or 4 years later, he returned and he possessed. And then he possessed a person, and so like made his re-entry, possessed another person in the area. And when that happened, then actually the people asked him, hey, you've been gone for like almost 4 years, what happened to you? And then the ghost told his story. He said, I've had such a difficult time, I did this to Mingyur Nangke Dorje, and he hurled me all the way to the other side of the planet, and it's taken me all this time to get back. Actually the story ended up being told by the ghost. Like the master hadn't told anyone about it, so that they heard about it from the people, heard about it from the ghost. So this is just one such story, and in order for obstacles it's our hope and fear that actually create obstacles. Our hope and fear and our attachment to the worldly concerns that provide the kind of gateway for obstacles to enter. So this being the case, then, as it says, having visions of deities, receiving prophecies, gaining clairvoyance and the like, these are really not a big deal. Actually, they're not necessarily a genuine sign. So one shouldn't give them too much importance. There are other signs like footprints and handprints being made in solid rock and stuff, those also are not necessarily signs of realization, actually. There are many cases of footprints and handprints appearing actually just made by local spirits. And likewise with clairvoyance, experiencing clairvoyance and other kinds of powers. So yeah, things like this, seeing deities making footprints in rocks and the like, it's very difficult to actually be able to tell decisively whether these are genuine signs of realization or whether they're actually obstacles being, luring obstacles being made by spirits and the like. So that being the case, we shouldn't give them too much importance and get attached to these kinds of things. The real and definitive signs of genuine realization are the signs that were mentioned above. So the disturbing emotions and thoughts lessening and weakening, confidence in karma, cause and effect strengthening, our compassion growing and growing and intensifying, and attachment to the 8 worldly concerns decreasing. These are the very best and most genuine signs of realization. Yes.
Dinemago kitty di bagor de Kelakun. Oh, so the Zibuda Mindu. Kia Zibuka Zibuji, Zibuda, what the corner about Tomato again. Zibuji is red tongue, came out of Zibus again, and Shedaka Habu. The Gomato Resano. Mama Zibuchi, Zibuchi, or the Rigel Pamela. Oh, yeah, Zibuchi was. Zibuchi, He Bagor to get ticket down. Everybody didn't know the country that they were. He killed the Morgan, Kitumbo, the Morgan, Bagorkan. Oh, Zibuda Mongol, Sister the Rigan. The Tawa Methodist, Zibus against religious.
Okay, another story about this master and the 8 worldly concerns. The 8 worldly concerns really do affect everyone until we reach, until we've completely realized, meaning until we are completely enlightened. And no matter who we all are affected by the 8 worldly concerns. We can pretend that we're not, but that's just not being honest. We are everyone, all of us, until we reach direct realization. We cannot help but be affected by the 8 worldly concerns. Of course, there'll be a difference between people in like the strength of their attachment to the 8 worldly concerns, but nevertheless, we can't pretend that we're free from them. Actually, until we reach the first bhumi and become a noble being, then it's just not possible to be free from the 8 worldly concerns. It's just how it is. The protector Nagarjuna stated this clearly in his text, Letter to a Friend. So, of course, as practitioners, then we can reduce our attachment to the 8 worldly concerns, and we can kind of just try to ignore them and not pay attention to them. But still, we do have these concerns in mind. That is just, unavoidable as ordinary beings. But like I said, when you become completely realized, then it is possible to be free from them. So, an example of being completely free from these concerns is. Such an example was this master Mingyur Namkhe Dorje. So one day the Dergi king was planning to go to see this master Mingyur Namkhe Dorje, and since this master often behaved in kind of funny ways, so when the students heard that the king was coming to visit him, they were a little nervous in a sense, because their teacher often behaved in funny ways. So they made this kind of special effort to go and prep him, before the king arrived, and say, Master, the king is coming today to see you. So you really, you should act in a very magnificent, majestic way. You need to be very careful about how you act. This is the king, okay? So they prepped him, and he said, "Yeah, all right, okay, I'll do just that." And then, of course, they made really lavish preparations in the monastery and the whole, area in preparation for the king. So they were all busy making these lavish preparations, and Mingyur Namkhe Dorje was just in his room upstairs. With not a thought in mind about the king's visit, actually, but still he'd been prepped, by his students. And when the time came close, then he called to his attendant. He said, "Hey, go downstairs to the courtyard and take the collar off the dog there." So in Tibet, they apparently have these big, very big collars that the dogs wear. So it's like the collar for a dog, and it's big and red with a kind of big piece at the front. So like a huge collar with a specific design. So he told his attendant, "Hey, go down, take the collar off that dog and bring it up to me." So the attendant did as his teacher told him, brought the collar up, and then later when the king arrived and he was brought up to meet, this master Mingyur Namkhe Dorje. So they brought the king up. To see the master, and the students arrived. Brought the king up to his door. They looked in, through the door to Mingyur Namkhe Dorje, and then they saw that he was wearing this dog collar around his neck. And they said, they exclaimed, "Master, what on earth are you doing? if the king is has come and you're wearing the dog collar, what on earth do you think you're doing? And the master replied, you told me I needed to look majestic and handsome. Doesn't this look good? Said, downstairs I see the dog in the courtyard wearing this collar, barking, and he looks so majestic. Don't I look good? This is exactly what you told me to look like. This is the kind of perception that these highly realized beings have, In this master's perception, handsome and majestic was the way this dog looked, but he had no further thoughts about it. And so I can't act like Rinpoche did. Rinpoche did it so well, right? So that was the teacher saying, don't I look good, majestic like the dog when he sits downstairs with the collar going, off, off. So this is the kind of this is exactly what you meant, right? And so this just shows the mindset of these kinds of beings who have become utterly free of the 8 worldly concerns. That's what So for these kinds of realized masters, this notion of handsome is no more than a dog with a nice collar on. They have no other notions, give no further import or thought to this notion of handsome, Likewise, they give no importance or no value to gold. In our perception, gold is something so valuable, and rocks in comparison is something without value. If you put a lump of gold and a rock in front of these kinds of people, they just perceive no difference at all, So this is the just what happens in the minds of very highly realized beings. These kinds of distinctions just don't exist really.
Pardoro Shinang Nuzin Chitok Pinito, Zazazine, Tuang, Tops, and this Gashi Council, the Ringu Majese, Mushito, Juto, Shugaji, tap them to Shugaji, the Tindic Rewati, till a Rewati Buma, Tiguna, Rewa Koran Parchet over the rest. Bomiaku Job Deshatan, Metana Tuang, Nashinji, Rashingi, Teneco, Mr. Mutopinian, Moshi, and Tula Savarahi, Jungare, Yashure. Kada majung na ti ayon na san rewaj na gudna te tanda te parche ho res regu mache dekar kyula sho se nyam da to chi moshi da judula so bu tumu moshi da san rangi rewa mache te yu sho se tama chi kra chungi parto ro sinang wizin chito te ni da gomi ya bu jamni nyamne ya bu che the na rangi ya bu che de na tama te ne go shibi tu so se ta du shu ke chika ge du je dunga chika na ju dunga du shu re Shivi to Chungi Pardo Rosa, Pardula Pardo Gio, that is only Terna Yabuchisha, the Terna, Pardo and Chica Pardo, fair details. Then in Zutana, Kansas, Zokochimbo, also topic it and Tata, Zutapi, the Lurkin, Mongudi Ternan Tisha, cannot detail of the Soria Bazar Lord, you did in a Tisha. Soria Bazar Lord, you didn't get it in a Mango Tisha, Zutamji, cannot talk, Gumbo, Tudan, Peche. The Tisha, it is not a castle, the technical Pache Tamjiri, it is not long and the lesson. In the Tamachicas, that Chica Pardo did not pay Jachin Chica Pardo, Pardo Gio, Rajin Pardo, Chica Pardo, oya kene parto te tiba parto shiyo chika parto se ta shisare ngaranzo chivu nawo tamje che ne chika parto chewe ne kapsu tene shiwa shibju tsangi chakdunga bju tsangi lo haso kumbe sharang gore te ting haso ke tene sharang gore dra wo ta serla so pala te shenang ke ngaranzo tamje ki tile shenang ke te kamsum khoral ma chambe jo oya tiba khoral ma chuldu ju tene nyaga yo gore ne dandan ripa yango ngosin yakbo jonsona tene ripa ngozona jodo gore e kore ngaranzo ne chungi parto ram chodo te tindra madro na yang tene chiga ngaranzo kerem yabu gomkyo tene yinpanji chungi parto ne ka thai kerem la shiwa ta chogo ke pha gomne di la di ngang tene la shiwa ta chogo ke ngang tene ngaranzo rangi hitam ka thai baha kone te parto ne chodo tene yungu wane e du kana chungi parto se tese thama chiga chungi parto ro se shinang mu se shito ni tu se shi na wa yinba ngo se ne rang de ko shinang mu se shi le shinang she wa mu se shito ni tu de ko ni tu zansa se ne tro nge wa to se zansa sin se ta ri pa lo ngo ne ri bi ge to de ta rang se ne zansa sin de ri bi ge to ta che ri bi ge to de zansa sin de ro wa nge ba to se te sang ji do ne es chuni parto lo sang ji do res तारा चुनी पर्दो ने जब तने ना टिबा पर्दो शरव ने कौन तने किरिम द जोरिम ला गोबा यो ना किरिम जोरिम की कोबा दे के वांगे ते पर्दो की जीटा के बिना था दे ते तोड़ दो जैसा से तो जैसा से ने जो वांगे तो तेतर ता कुछ जो दुशी से तासा ता जीता गुम जो था दे सारे ता तंगो थोमा गेवा लेके तो पर्दो गेवा जुगु तमर गेवा जुगु तो सुन गेवा ना के ता थोमर गेवा लेके तो पर्दो गेवा जुगु तो जु या जो साने तमर गेवा जुगु तो सके ता दी जुग जांग 다 타마르기와 주고 sabjena ba da yegine sabji sumshayen ba o ya da tamargiwa jugu to ni sala ya da tamargiwa jugu ta teder ta kun che sum dor tu shi se han di duden do ya tawa ta gomba joba sum dor di ba shi jok ki sha sum mi dok zam do ti se han di ju che lama chawang ge mo ma do ta ngi mi ji pro ti se u tu je ne ti u tu je je la te pa ni ko ta se sana ngaran so Yangtang Rinpoche mo ma do ta kong de ke ta mo go shi u tu wo je mo ma do na ko ji che ga yin se jok ki sha sum so che jo yin se da Yangtang Rinpoche tu ngim jung le ta ko la ma che ko a je wa ja wa je je chong bo ja si yin ne ta ke chong bo so che jo so 저기 자서 또 산다 지 니나랑라 미비 같이 있다 공라 저버치 비냠네 가게 메소 양파는 뭐지 공라 날리 가게 왜 니네랑라 미비 같이 있는세 공 이제 저버치 비냠네 재미들 이기 듣고도 좀 비디나 신 듣고지 좀 잘해대 이네 공라랑 양네 가게 메다 킹바킹 하고 나마 또 통보이나 또 번매 도도지 나랑서 미디랑라 이제 지금 연내 맨나야 연도시 폰 넘버 연도 연나야 면도시 배기 배기 대신 너를 망고 연이 배에서 다 공기도 좀 줘라 저거 친구 같은 데 만들 왔다 너로 왔다 된 갈와라서 망고 요새들에서 대신 너를 망고 연이 배 젤라진에 도저 심은 줘라 남아서 다 공이 개와 시우면 또 같은 거시에 많이 일단 너르족한 분에게 추격하는 망고 요기 돼서 아티네 개와서라 지세 냠렘 바서라 지세 야 켈라지네 도주 힘을 줘서 개와다 도주다 도진다 개와서라 지네디 로 간세스나 양단을 보지 남겨기자 제가 따봉 줘서 디디라 교주에 야 너와다 축구에 디디라기네 다시 야 보심주야 보지서 켈라지네 도주다 갈데 지과 중서 일반 남자 쪽에는 모두 영화다 뭐랑 겨다 뭐랑 갈데 공기도 좀 직변 통치 주요하니 갈데 지과 중서 영향이 되는 저번에 뭐 따끔 좀 맞추네 양보지原来你送的天了갈데 지과 중서 일반 쪽에 있는 모두 영화 중에서 다 루지 남아 상황 조르기 나라도 탐제는 냠퇴기 때 냠닝기 모두 냠닝기 때 나라는 세나다 여기에 좀 되게 조선적으로 냠닝타를 친구 깨서 저기 냠닝 모두 영화당 냠닝타를 친구 깨서 도서다 냠닝타를 친구도 상기고 봐서 그렇지만도 마닥마닥보다 신분남도 고르비식 선진자주 선바이 대신식 버시주도 됐다 소람 전람 통람 방으로 랑나야 상기가 사마도 냠닝디 같이 교와 말이야. 사주 균자를 내면 이나 와자 신도 자와지 저와 빵이 Dojitevi Tingenzi, Yambo Dojitevi Tingenzi, Sanji, Tini Yamlin Zotan, Tipper Yamin Joe, Tindu Kala, Yamin Taruchimba, the Timbikian Samtu, oh, yeah, touch it on Nekap Chitogia, Party, Nam Yamsun Yabala, Party, Mabatan, Tabu Sanji, go on with the Toba loss of Mini, Gunne, Chamchik de me, Shilong to Sata, Chamchik, Lenjik, the door to Sanjan Tanje, oh, yeah, the Lama, Chawang, Tajewa, Tanje, Tonko, Irmit to the Sanki, more than Molam, I think more Molam. Only give me Sanjik, Shilong to toilet to me, the Molam shoes, Penis, around Chubu, and Subu. Donna Kongan, Yangtang, which is a Sanjan Tanje, Majun Joy, Sanjan Tanje, Chanju, Dumi, on the Sun, Molam the Moa, and Change to Joy. And my Molam second Davai division. Moa second the Rangi Jabbat, Shanna Jabbat. But to the Ewashi, Molam, Moa, the Molam, the Yamashi, then they told me to meet me, told me, said, to meet on Chubu, need to be more of shoes, a content that intention to go over shoes. Shoto Tamba, come to watch and paper, Lama, Sawan, Kurusha, soon dogs of the Yangtang to me, Gomit Namit, Chiba, Dijang, talking on the Gilgit, Chatan Sasson, Tangaranzo, the Kanson, the Sepanjur. Lama Sawan again, the Disundu Gansi Tuson, teacher told you, Lama Shajaba, the Mudi to do, Yantana Mujuma, Chimu, Mahakoma, the Pichi, Sarah inside to Lovat, Yantana Mujuma, Leva Thomas, take home, Yamachi lived on the registry, Pemig selection, Shushato, and I got a chene, Yantana Mujela, Jagamu Chijipuli. Oh, deeply moved about the Gomutongati, Peg gas to the shade. Hindu Gomatonga, fully, Magic Tendria would say not to pick attention to quietly jingle Loma Redo. Call up from the Pontanga, Katazi, which are from Moton to the Katazi. This term became Mandrigus in the tree. Pemigi, Gaushu, one again, the dead Damaya was exactly the colors of Murava, Machida Dama, Mangushu, the Monchan, Jimmy, and Batana, Japa, which should Tito. Down to some tuning and detail and did nothing down such a fresh Coromazara, can make a house of Maravi. In a more letter, Susum de Letar, Ishilama Letar, Naranzo, Dile Kansas, Nanjang Letach, indicate a shape, my Marity, tuning and detail, which is a certain that's saying my tuning when you want to talk, you might not do it to meet on the church, you know, being to do Nala. Down to Zangi Lama, Naranzo Lama, Dinner, Dama, Zigiti, some give me to colors of the Marabes and Ratrisam. He become a Mutsala Kataji. Temata that he loves some more time, Lamsan run. Oh, Korapara, Mandel is the Guruchi. Oh, come with it. Call the Pulgojaman, dear Calden, Limbrich and Jered Subs. Cook at the Madon other people at Honguma. Call of the Mutanga Kataji. The change, the Tito Lamsang are Luntos. Lamsang tea losing up. Didn't loom as a jail chitos. The chito measure which you cannot jail me the tissues and other platters. But did it pay me like Jubacama in Yaboyos? And I tell Cheta. This is some good and you because
Usually.
Tangier. The sound.
So, yeah, so again it says, otherwise to have visions of deities, receive prophecies, gain clairvoyance and the like may or may not be the fruit of the path. So it is possible that these sorts of things arise as a result of realization, but it's also possible that they are actually just the deception of Mara. It's difficult to say. So that being the case, then we should not wait, but immediately put them aside. And should not wait. You could also say like, don't have hope or expectation don't wait in expectation for these kinds of signs, but immediately put them aside. Like, don't give them a special importance, because who knows if they're genuine signs or not. rather we should just meditate. We should just continue with our training, continue sincerely with our practice, and if we continue with our practice, then progress will come about. We will progress, and signs of our progress will occur, as mentioned above. If these signs include things like this, like genuine clairvoyance and genuine clairvoyance and prophecies and so on, then so be it, that's fine. But we shouldn't wait around and wait in expectation for these kinds of special signs to appear. We should just, we shouldn't get caught up in hope and expectation, but just continue with our practice. So don't wait, but immediately, don't wait in expectation for such signs, but immediately put any expectation you have for such things aside and just continue with your practice. Like I said, and like the text says, the genuine signs are the signs mentioned above. Finally, at death or in the bardo of Dhammata, recognize the ground appearances, and in that very ground, having seized the citadel, you'll be certain to gain liberation. So sooner or later we will all face death, and death is the greatest, most intense suffering that we will experience in life. The most intense suffering. And the teachings talk about 4 different bardos or intermediate states. The bardo of death, the bardo of birth, the bardo of existence, and the bardo of the true nature. There's a lot to learn about these 4 bardos. We won't go into them here. We've already almost run out of time. But I do talk about the 4 bardos in my book, The Great Secret of Mind. So they are explained there. And also there are many other stories about the 8 worldly concerns and so on, and about all the points we've just been talking about. There's another really wonderful story about a practitioner called Surya Vajra. This story is told in detail in the commentary on the main severance instructions and it's a wonderful story, very helpful story, but it takes a long time to tell, so I wanted to tell it, but we don't have time. But I do mention in my book, and also in the you can read it in the translation of that commentary, and it's actually mentioned in many texts. So in any case, when the time of death comes, and our life ceases, this life ceases, then we will enter the 100 peaceful and wrathful deities will manifest to us. We will enter the bardo, and the 42 peaceful deities and 58 wrathful deities will manifest, together with intense, very loud sounds, intense display of lights and so on. And if we react with fear at this extraordinary and intense display, then there is the danger that because of that fear and then the grasping that ensues, we'll end up taking rebirth again in samsara, and the cycle will continue. If though we can train in recognition of the nature of mind now and gain some stability in that, some familiarization, then as a result, because of the strength of that familiarization, then when we encounter this display of deities and lights and so on in the bardo, we will recognize those for what they are and gain liberation into the bardo of the true nature. Equally, if we're familiar with the practices of generation stage or the practices of completion stage, then as a result of our familiarization with those practices, we'll be able to recognize the display of the bardo and gain liberation within the bardo. And we won't have to again take rebirth in samsara with no volition. Recognize the ground appearances. When these ground appearances arise in the bardo, recognize them for what they are, and you will be able to do that when these ground appearances arrive if you use this life to familiarize yourself with the training. Like I said, training in the great perfection, ideally, but also training in the generation stage and completion stage will allow you to recognize from the perspective of those types of practice, and you will also be able to gain liberation through those practices. So, as it says, in that very ground, within that very basic ground, you will be able to seize the citadel, which seize the citadel is a term which means to gain definitive recognition of intrinsic awareness, and thus gain liberation through that recognition. So in this way you'll be certain to gain liberation. So with this line we've now concluded the explanation of the main part of the teaching. So I presented this text in terms of, with an outline of 3 points: the excellent virtue of the beginning, of the middle, and the end. And I explained that the excellent virtue of the middle contained teachings on view, meditation, conduct, and result. So we've now covered all of those topics, and thus concluded the excellent virtue of the middle. And the remaining part of the text is the excellent virtue of the end, the conclusion. I've written this brief presentation of view, meditation, and action merely as a response to a friend's request, which I couldn't refuse. So this text, a brief presentation of view, meditation, and action, Yangtang Rinpoche wrote at the request of the monk, a monk called Lama Tsewang, as I mentioned before. And here Rinpoche, being so humble, he describes this Lama as a friend, as a Dharma friend. In fact, this Lama was one of his disciples, right? But being so humble and so humble and simple, he describes him here as a friend. And this Lama, he's saying that this Lama made such insistent requests, I felt I couldn't refuse. So in response then, I wrote this text to fulfill his request, a rather hypocritical endeavor for one who knows nothing of what is here described. So here he's just being extremely humble, as great masters such as he are. He's saying that, this text, the content of this, the topic of this teaching is the great perfection, its view, meditation, and action. I've written about it here in very lofty, in very eloquent words, but in fact I know nothing. I have no direct experience of it myself. Of course, he's actually a highly realized being. He's just being very humble here. This is how the great masters are. It's kind of the opposite from the way we are, right? They do whatever they can to conceal their amazing qualities. We do whatever we can to show whatever meager qualities we might have. So, a rather hypocritical endeavor, and one which will undoubtedly produce many errors. So, any errors, that meaning anything that is mistaken in contradiction with the teachings of the great perfection. He's saying, well, there must be mistakes and contradictions. Again, it's being very humble. Be sure, therefore, to ask others to clarify your every doubt. So he's saying to this Lama Tsewang, you should analyze what I've written very carefully, because it probably contains mistakes, and then be sure to ask other scholars and realized practitioners of the great perfection for clarification. So in the unlikely event that this text does contain 1 or 2 points of value, if there is any chance that it's of any benefit, then I dedicate all of the merit of that benefit, so that they may be a cause for my friend's practice to grow in strength, and for it to be accomplished completely, so that he may be liberated in the expanse of the primordial ground. So with this, Yangtang Rinpoche is dedicating the merit of composing this text for his friend Lama Tsewang's practice to grow in strength and be accomplished completely. Here when he says accomplished completely, of course a complete accomplishment is the state of complete enlightenment. And the path to enlightenment involves traversing the 5 paths of accumulation, joining, seeing, and so on, which contain the 10 bhumis, and traversing through the 3 stages, the 3 stages known as the impure stage of sentient beings, the both pure and impure stages of those on the path, and the completely pure stage traversing to the completely pure stage of enlightenment. Only once we've traversed this whole path, the 5 paths, 10 bhumis, and reached the 10th bhumi, and we finally, through constant training on the path, reach the last moment of the 10th bhumi, and are then conferred empowerment, the empowerment of luminosity by the victorious ones, only then do we finally manifest complete enlightenment. So in that way, may he be able to accomplish completely his practice and thus be liberated in the expanse of the primordial ground. So when we do reach that point of full enlightenment, then that's to say that we are fully liberated in the expanse of the primordial ground. In short, I pray for the accomplishment of the twofold benefit, namely the Dhammakaya for the benefit of oneself and the accomplishment of the Rupakaya for the benefit of others. And so Yangtang Rinpoche here is combining this closing with an aspiration for his Lama, for Lama Tsewang, who requested it, but also for all sentient beings, all mother sentient beings, so that they may attain perfect enlightenment. And so here he's both dedicating the merit and also making an aspiration. Usually dedication and aspiration come together, but there's a slight difference between them. Dedication is actually giving away merit that has been accrued, whereas aspiration is like making a wish, wishing for something. Again, there's a lot more to say about the difference between those two, but simply speaking, that's it. I, the one who bears the name of Yangtang Tulku, wrote this rather incoherent, disorganized text, simply to avoid turning down the insistent request of Lama Tsewang, a Dharma friend from Rinpoche and Kham. May it be a cause of benefiting this friend's practice. So, like I mentioned at the beginning of the teachings, that this Lama Tsewang, who was a monk, like quite a fat, handsome monk from Rinpoche in East Tibet, I encountered him one morning at Rinpoche's house, and it seemed, that just as it says in the colophon here, he insistently requested that Yangtang Rinpoche write this teaching for him, and so in response Rinpoche did, and we have this amazing text. And then I managed to get a look at the text and then receive the oral transmission, like I told you before. But it's funny, this student Lama Tsewang, I'd never seen him before at Rinpoche's place or anywhere else with Rinpoche, and I never saw him afterwards. It seems he just kind of disappeared. So maybe he was a new disciple actually, and hadn't been a student of Rinpoche for long. But in any case, he requested this extraordinary, profound teaching, and because of his request, we now have this amazing instruction. When I saw this, when I managed to get the text off him and look at it, and I was so amazed by the profundity of this text, and so just so filled with joy at encountering such a thing. Like I told you before, I immediately insisted that Rinpoche give me the oral transmission for it, which he did, and then also, just because I was so overjoyed by encountering this kind of profound, amazing instruction, then I immediately offered Yangtang Rinpoche 10,000 Indian rupees with a kata as a kind of mandala offering and appreciation for it. And I also offered 5,000 rupees and a kata to this Lama Tsewang, because he was the requester, the condition. Without him and his kindness of requesting, we wouldn't have this teaching right. So as a kind of mandala offering to both of them, to Rinpoche and then to him as for bringing this about, I made that offering, just like suddenly, without thinking too much, just there and then. So this really is an extraordinarily blessed and profound teaching. Of course, it's not that this teaching contains anything new, and it's also not that it's somehow better than great perfection teachings that already existed. I mean, you couldn't surpass the teachings of Longchenpa and the like, all of the great masters of the past. And again, there's nothing new here, but nevertheless, to encounter a text like this that is so concise and pithy, and not only that, but so fresh, utterly fresh, written by a contemporary master, and so recently, this I thought was something extremely special and especially blessed. Again, it's not, of course, I could never say that this is somehow more special or blessed than the teachings that already existed, but in the fact that it's so fresh and so fresh, and appearing also within this degenerate age, this age of dregs in which we are afflicted by the 5 degenerations of time, sentient beings, negative emotions, view, and environment. I just thought it was like of almost inconceivable good fortune to encounter this kind of teaching. And to encounter in the midst of this degenerate age the manifest enlightened activity like this, to directly encounter it in the midst of this degenerate age, is, I think, something of extraordinary good fortune, inconceivably good fortune, that we should really delight in. So like I said, I was able to receive the oral transmission directly from Rinpoche as soon as he'd finished composing this, and then later, so I received the lung straight away, and later on I was able to receive in a detailed teaching on this text from Rinpoche himself. And at that time then he also told me, he told me that I should teach this text in the future to others. So I feel I have a very good lineage for this text, direct lineage, very excellent lineage for this teaching.
Yes.
So that's it, finished.
That teaching is
so now we will chant some dedications and aspirations. The prayer of the King of Aspiration prayers, which people have on their iPads.